I'm just toting around this garbage.
Yeah, I can't believe we're doing this.
What, on a novelization?
4 episodes. This is cool, though.
Yes. Hey everyone, it's Ben Wan again with Andrew on Batman Forever.
What's up, everyone?
And if you didn't think we were nerdy enough, we're going to give you a run for money because we're going to talk about the novelization.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any nerdier.
I don't know how we ended up with 4, but yeah, I don't know how we so many episodes on this thing that, I guess here we are. So
somehow it ended up with us having 4 episodes. What the finale will be, we'll get to later.
Yes,
but
yes.
Definitely the finale is going to go out with a bang, everybody. But yeah, this is part 3 of 4. Unbelievably enough, there is quite a story behind the novelization of Batman Forever, and Ben's got a bunch of info on that as per the usual.
Yes, so for those wondering, like, why the hell are we going over the novel of it? The novelizations actually are a good source to find out what was in the shooting script, because the authors have to write it. It has to be released at the same time as the movie, so they never end up actually seeing the movie. What they get is a combination of the shooting script and any of the last-minute rewrites, and they kind of fill in their own ideas. So a lot of times you find that the novel has stuff that sort of fills in some of the plot holes that the movie left.
Yeah.
So for the first 2 Batman movies, it was Craig Shaw Gardner who wrote for the 89 one and Returns. And just to give you an example of when that happens, where the author adds his own take. Remember the part at the end of 89 where they're in the cathedral and the thugs just suddenly attack Batman?
Yeah.
Did you ever wonder how the thugs ended up there? Because Joker didn't know he was going to go up the cathedral at that point.
I always figured the thugs were just following the Joker up.
Yeah, but they weren't. You never see them.
Right.
He's being followed by Batman, so where do the thugs come from?
You know, I never put that together, actually.
So Craig Shaw Gardner writes an additional scene that is not in any of the shooting scripts. So he writes an additional scene where Joker and Vicky make it to the top of the bell tower, and then they see the thugs. And Joker's like, what are you guys doing here? And the thugs say, well, when Batman attacked, we wanted a better view of everything. So they actually were the first to get to the top of the tower first, and it's just kind of explained that that's why they're there.
Okay.
So this is an example of what happens with a lot of these authors. When we got to Batman Forever, they switched gears and they went to an actual comic book writer, the great Peter David, who
great,
yes, great in his writing, maybe not so much in personality.
Oh, check our Twitter feed for more, everybody.
But for this, just like how the 89 movie, the best version of that was consulting the original scripts, the best version of Batman Returns was the original Sam Hamm script. I'd like to think the best sort of version, the best combination of the best of the Bachelor draft, the best of the Goldman draft, the best of the actual movie can be found in this book. Peter David had his own thoughts on the movie. He
says, did we all.
Yes. I'll just sum it up with this one paragraph he wrote. He says, The plot displays the singular achievement of being incredibly complicated and at the same time ludicrously simple. Bruce Wayne says Batman must die. Everything else is bells and whistles. Two-Face, irritatingly called Harvey Two-Face at several points, making him sound almost like a Native American, hates Batman for reasons that are murky. Edward Nygma is obsessed with Bruce Wayne for reasons that are murkier, yet that combined with Dick Grayson's revenge kick and the juvenile Batman fixation by quote-unquote Dr. Chase Meridian, named after 2 banks and yet a few dimes short of $1, is the sum and substance of this movie. He says, I had lots of room to make the script workable. Director Joel Schumacher didn't get that option, nor did the actors get entire additional scenes explaining just what the hell the characters were supposed to be about. Consequently, they never really seemed to know. So, David didn't really like this movie very much. It doesn't sound like. Tell us how you really feel.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
Yes. So, what he wrote was adding in a lot of the stuff that he thought would make a little bit more sense, and you get a very different take on the same exact story. And there's even an audiobook version of this that is 3 hours long, which is about as long as Avengers Endgame, and that's the abridged version.
An audiobook that's 3 hours, that's actually kind of short for an audiobook, I guess.
Right, yeah.
But
I mean, the actual book is 245 pages, but has so much stuff packed in. Funny enough, the audiobook uses the Danny Elfman Batman theme at the very beginning and at the end. So it's kind of this weird alternate universe version of Batman Forever.
Let us know if you wanted us to go over more audiobooks in the future.
Yes, indeed. But let's get right the fuck
I'm
to
serious
it.
about that.
Yes.
All right, keep going.
We start not the same way that we started the script. In fact, we don't even get to where the script started until around page 44 or so of the book.
Okay, yeah.
So he pads this with a lot of his own info. So we start out with the beginning where Bruce Wayne is going to fall into the cave. So he starts off with that flashback. And while you might be watching Batman Forever and get to I'll Get Drive Through in the same amount of time, you could read this part. Quote, he hauled himself up, turned, and looked back and up at the house. That's all it was now. A house, not a home. Home, after all, is where the heart is. But the young man's heart was elsewhere. It was scattered in small bloody ruins on the filth-ridden ground of a place recently dubbed Crime Alley after its most recent atrocity. His heart lay intermixed with the blood of two people, pouring from them, darker, much darker than he'd imagined blood to be. There had been warmth coming off of it, for it had been a very chill evening. Life had gushed from them with a deep, abiding warmth, the heat rising, wafting away 2 lives and 3 souls, leaving behind 2 corpses and 1 living creature that only wished he were dead, and a leering, chortling monster of a man, glowering down at the boy and saying something that made no sense. Quote, tell me, kid, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
So it's obviously like way better than what we got. What we did get was some idiot in a fucking safe being,
Right.
Oh no, that's what we got.
Right. So already David is connecting to the Tim Burton movie with the Dance of the Devil in the Pale Moonlight. He has Bruce fall into the cave and has this creepy moment where it almost seems like this is the birth of Bruce's other personality, where Bruce looks around the cave and says, let me out, and then a voice in his head says, let me in. So it's the sort of the birth of it. And he gets surrounded by the bats until he sees the lone monarch bat coming towards him. And Peter David says, quote, and with the cries of the leathery creatures providing an ungodly orchestral tone, the young man danced with the devil in the pale moonlight.
So he's reappropriating that for his own purposes.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I also I'm a big fan of the text size on this book. He's got the Batman Forever novelization right in front of him.
Yes.
It's like this regular pocket novel size of a book, but fairly big text. It looks like a young adult novel, just as described for the reader. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty nice.
It is, yes.
Easy to read.
But clearly at this point, Peter David is just swinging his big dick around, being like, this is how I'm going to write this.
They just let him do whatever he wanted?
Yeah, which is amazing.
It's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, so this is him covering a scene that's already part of the script. Here's where he starts adding his own stuff, because the next chapter is introducing a young kid at school named Edward Nygma.
At school?
Yes, he's at school.
Okay.
He is already smarter than his own good. I mean, he's already an outcast. He's getting bullied. He sees himself as above people because it helps him feel better about himself. And immediately, a teacher recommends that he reads the newspaper because Edward Nygma has bragged that he has read every book in the library already. So the teacher's like, how about you read the news? And
I like it.
The latest headline is Thomas Wayne murdered. Only child survives.
Okay.
And Edward looks at it. Edward's gaze flicked to the caption, which described the photo subject as the grief-stricken Bruce Wayne. No, whispered Edward. No, they got it wrong. He's not stricken with anything. Look at that. Look at that. He saw there in Bruce Wayne's face an intensity that mirrored his own, an anger, a frustration at the hand that fate had dealt him. There were no tears on Bruce's face. Instead, there was a smoldering intelligence that Edward intuitively sensed was on par with his own. So if you wondered where the hell Edward's obsession came from with Bruce, Peter David is trying to explain that off the cuff by saying that he felt bonded to this kid from the tragedy that happened and realizing that they were both kind of outcasts and didn't want to be outcasts in a way or stricken by some sort of sense of tragedy. And Edward sort of sees it as his mission to find Bruce Wayne and become, essentially change the world together from that. And it's a really interesting new take on where Edward's obsession comes from, rather than just being like, oh, you're my idol type of thing. It
Right,
comes from
right.
like, you're the only person in the world who can understand me, in a way.
Right.
So that's interesting.
It's like it makes too much sense.
And what's interesting is that there's a moment that David adds later where Enigma still has the newspaper, and Bruce ends up finding the newspaper with the death of his parents and stuff in Enigma's cubicle, sort of adding to the idea, okay, this guy's a little cray-cray.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So he's adding a little bit to the Riddler stuff. Chapter 3, we go into Harvey Dent. And
Okay.
Harvey Dent meets Batman on a rooftop, and we sort of get a little bit of backstory where it says that he meets Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne becomes friends with him and agrees to bankroll his fundraiser, not unlike what you see in The Dark Knight. And Batman has a conversation with Dent. He shows up, and Dent says to him, as an officer of the court, I must advise you to report to the nearest police station, submit yourself to arrest. And Batman studies him for a moment and says, if you're referring to that business with a penguin, his gang can tell you everything you need to know. So remember we talked about how in Batman Returns, they never explain how Batman's name ever gets cleared?
Yeah.
Peter David isn't just filling in plot holes in Batman Forever. He's filling in plot holes from Batman Returns in this thing. Because he's saying that Batman says they're holed up in a warehouse at 73rd and Grand. There's a secret room through a revolving wall on the northeast side. I'm presuming you can get the truth out of them. So he's telling Dent where the rest of the Red Triangle Circus gang is so they can clear his name.
It's just funny to think about this because you know how like in Dark Knight Rises, whenever everybody freaked out on the internet, like how did he get out of the well, we saw how he got out of the hole, but how did he
get to
Gotham? Yeah, people were freaking out about that. I wonder, these must have been the conversations at that time, you know, like these plot holes from Batman Returns, and like they must have been talking about it in Starlog magazine and shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it was like Starlog was like the pre-nerd internet, you know?
Mm-hmm. So here, David's filling that in, and they have a different, they sort of go into a different conversation where Batman is noticing that Harvey Dent seems to be losing confidence in getting, he doesn't really want to go for DA again.
Okay.
And Dent's telling him, you know what, I got a fiance, like I'm trying to go back to private practice, I want out of this. And Batman's like, if with your help, I could actually clean up the city, sort of things, from all the cobble pots and everything like that. And Harvey's like, I'm putting my, you're telling me to go back into this war on crime. And not only that, you're asking me to put my neck out on the line for a vigilante.
Right.
And Batman tells him, I'll protect you.
Nice.
And that's sort of the beginning of the Harvey Dent-Batman relationship. So what ends up happening is Bruce Wayne, Batman is helping Dent with all these crimes. It's mentioned at one point that Batman stops Poison Ivy from some sort of crime, some sort of attack on Harvey. I think that was Peter David referencing the Poison Ivy episode in the animated series. Because
he wrote this novel before Batman and Robin came out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we didn't know that Poison Ivy was going to be in the next one.
Yeah.
But in the Peter David version, this is canon with some version of Pretty Poison, that episode.
Oh, man.
So they work with each other. Batman nabs Boss Maroni. Boss Maroni is on trial. There's a scene that goes into it, and in this version, Batman does not do what he did in the 1940s and just shows up in the courtroom to try to stop it. He is kind of in disguise at one point. At least that's how it's described. And Dent gets hit with the acid, and Batman goes to Harvey's hospital, just like as you saw in The Dark Knight.
Okay.
And when he visits Harvey looks at him with a look of hatred and says, "Some protection."
Uh-huh.
So what you see is that David is giving an actual motivation and reason for why Two-Face is so hell-bent on this. He says,
wish she was nicer on Twitter. Keep going.
Yes, he says, we made it that much easier for you to operate in this town. Now you leave us double-crossed. We will not forget that. Not ever. That's what Two-Face says to Batman. So that explains, again, why Harvey Dent, why Two-Face is so hell-bent on killing Batman in present day. So David has already set up the main motivations of the hero and the two villains.
And how many pages are we in?
We're about, let's see. Yeah, we're about 25 pages in.
25. So 25 minutes. Well, okay, so that's prose.
A little longer, yeah.
So let's say it could have been 30 minutes
Yeah.
maybe, but still, that's the first act.
Yes.
is it's all set up. It's good. It's good setup.
And there's even more setup coming up.
Yeah.
So we then meet Dr. Chase Meridian as she's exploring Gotham City, and she gets purse snatched.
Okay.
And she runs after him, but she can only do so much because she's in high heels and the heels break and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And a figure jumps down and takes down the purse snatcher, and it's a kid.
Okay.
And the kid's name is Richard Grayson.
Okay. That's a good way to sync it all up there, and it's quick, too, that way.
Yeah. And John Grayson is running after her and being like, oh, thank God, Richard is safe. And Chase is like, hey, I'm Chase Meridian. Like, your son's very brave. I want to reward him. And John's like, no. The act itself should be the reward. And Richard has to, like, be okay with that, even though he's not. He'd rather get the money. And Chase is like...
Sorry, man. I know I'm jumping the gun here, but is there a single fucking page of this book that's anywhere near the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
We just don't get to it until, like, page 50.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
So, and Chase is like, hey, like, I'd love to talk more about, I'm a psychologist. I'd like to talk more about your son, about, like, people who jump into danger to help other people. And John Grayson is like, oh, you're one of those. No, we don't want to talk to you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And then he leads Richard away, and basically John's like, we're acrobats. We risk our neck out on the line. I don't need some doctor trying to psychoanalyze my son. And we get some bonding moments between father and son, because we really didn't get any moments with the Grayson family.
No, they just die.
Yeah, they just died. And this one, like, it's David is establishing the father-son relationship so that your heart gets ripped out when they actually do get killed.
I didn't know this was going to be this much better. I'm a little bit perplexed.
This is why we're doing the whole episode.
I knew it was going to be better, but I didn't know it was going to be quite this much better.
Yes. The next chapter is in Arkham Asylum, where a guard named Richter is nervous because he's going into the cell of Harvey Dent. And he arrives and he says, he has that acetylene torch and goggles to help Two-Face break out, and Two-Face is going to give him $500,000 in order to settle his gambling debts and pay him back for this. And Two-Face is like, why don't we flip for it? I'll double the amount of money. It's double or nothing if you call it correctly. And the guard is like, he's going back and forth, and he's like, I'm already in so much debt, but, like, imagine if I had a full $1 million.
Yeah.
So he says, clean side. And Two-Face flips, and it lands on Scar's side. And Two-Face is like, that's too bad. And then he slices the guard's throat.
Oh, man.
And the guard's like, why? And Two-Face says, double or nothing. Nothing means nothing. No money. No life. Sorry. And the guy's dying and gurgling as Two-Face breaks out. And then he hangs the guy and uses the blood to say the bat must die. As
Jesus.
Dr. Burton comes in.
See, this would have sent it over the edge.
Yeah. Again, this is all Peter David. The original script just began with Dr. Burton entering and seeing the guard, but it wasn't really cleared. Like, when they actually shot the scene where Burton finds the guard's actually alive. The guard is moving around.
I don't think you get a PG-13 rating in it with somebody writing in blood.
Like that, exactly. I mean? So maybe that's why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But now we're finally at the point where the original script begins. We're like 40-something pages in.
Oh, no. Don't do that.
So that guard's name is Tully, by the way.
Tully?
Tully, yeah.
Tully.
That's what's given to him by the author. But anyway.
Hey, man, you get good residuals every year, I'm sure. But
I'm sure, yeah.
Fuck, man.
So Bruce visits Wayne Enterprises because, again, the original order was Bruce meeting the future Riddler. Lucius Fox has a cameo in this.
Lucius?
In telling Bruce, like, hey, like, you got to go to this R&D thing.
Okay.
And Bruce goes. He meets Nigma. Same stuff happens. Sees the bat signal. Goes to the cave, gets dressed up. I'll Get Drive-Through is in the book. I think, I don't know. They must have paid David a lot for that one. And as he's about to arrive...
I'll Get Drive-Through.
Yeah.
The 90s were all about fast food, bro.
I know.
Like, what do you call it? Super Size Me didn't come out until years later, but I think that's just sort of the decline, man.
Yeah, I know.
When we were kids, McDonald's was fucking king, don't you think?
Otherwise we wouldn't have ended up with the tone that we got. Or what happened with Batman Returns in terms of the response to that.
McDonald's controlled movies, dude. Like... their fucking side project. Anyway, sorry, tangent.
No.
It's wild. The 90s were wild, kids.
It's very much a McDonald's movie.
Yeah.
So we do have an extra scene that reintroduces Tracy Meridian because we already met her, and she brings up to Gordon, like, you're so dependent on Batman. Like, what's behind that and everything? Because she's trying to psychoanalyze everybody.
Yeah.
And Gordon's like, you really want to know why I depend on him? And she's like, well, yeah, why? And he's like, because of that. And that's when Batman shows up.
Oh, shit.
And the idea is, like, he's always dependable. I can always depend on him.
The pacing is good,
type
man.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Batman meets Chase and Gordon, knows that there's a guard hostage up there and that he has to rescue him. So he goes up. Same stuff happens. He gets trapped in the vault with the guard. So this is the only thing, because the guard being trapped with him in the vault is not in the original script, but is in the movie. So there were some rewrites going on, and David was privy to that. And Batman and the guard have a conversation, and sure, there's stuff like it's boiling acid, but again, it's book form, so you can kind of picture it being said with a different delivery.
Yeah.
And the guard's like, who is this guy to you? And Batman's like, he used to be my friend.
Okay.
And the guard's like, do all your friends try to do this? So that's kind of cool.
Man.
So Batman rescues the guard, has a confrontation with Two-Face in the helicopter. Same deleted scene where Two-Face says, you're a killer too.
Okay.
To Batman, and Batman that gets to Batman. And the next morning, he wakes up, and the bat suit's all tattered and everything, and he asks Alfred to review the footage from Arkham Asylum to see if it gives him any clues of Two-Face's next move. And he sees footage of Dr. Burton interviewing Two-Face, and in the middle of it, he almost hallucinates Two-Face turning directly to him and saying, you're a killer too. So he's still haunted by this.
Okay.
And Burton asks him, like, where's your mind at and everything, and Two-Face says, where would the ideal place for a man like me, Doc? Ideal means imaginary, but to me, Doc, it's not imaginary. It's someplace that I'll find. I'll find a land where light is shadow and freaks are kings. And Bruce is wondering if there's a clue in that. So Nigma still kills his boss, fakes the suicide, everything like that, leaves riddles for Bruce. Bruce decides to use that as a reason to go visit and meet Chase at her office. Alfred goes to Bruce's bedroom only to find it empty and immediately goes to the Batcave. And it's kind of like that scene in Dark Knight where Alfred finds the bedroom and that's empty early on.
Oh, yeah.
And David adds the depth of wondering, oh, God, thinks Alfred, is this the one morning where Bruce doesn't come home?
Ah, that's good.
So a lot of good character moments here. Bruce asks Chase out to the circus. We go to the circus, and we, again, some more moments between the Grayson family members and everything. A little bit of a moment between Dick and his brother Chris, and Chris is always giving him crap for being so theatrical and such a showman and everything. So again, establishing more of a family bond before we rip your heart out by killing them. Chase is watching the circus, and she just randomly says, quote, a land of light and shadow where beasts dance and freaks are king. And Bruce is like, wait a minute, because that's the same exact thing that Two-Face said in the footage. And Chase says, oh, it's from an old fairy tale that contains a circus, and it's called The Tale of Twin, and Bruce is like, we got to get out of here. So that was Two-Face giving a clue that he was going to attack the circus.
It's like Two-Face is giving a riddle at that point.
Yeah, Two-Face gives more riddles in this book than Riddler, I guess.
Oh, man.
Peter David adds, during the whole circus fight thing, that Bruce takes down a thug and points a gun at Two-Face, but stops himself.
Okay.
Because he's just like, oh, God, there's a gun. I can't do it. But then the Graysons get killed. Right. So he's wondering, like, I swore never to use guns, but should he have pulled the trigger? That type of stuff. The Graysons get a more emotional ending because they get Two-Face is firing at them. John Grayson sacrifices himself because the three of them are all hanging.
He gets a heroic
death because he jumps off first so that at least his wife and his other son have a chance.
Okay, but they don't make it either.
No, and his older son is crying out to his mom not to drop him and everything. Don't drop me, Mom, don't drop me. And Two-Face shoots the other wire. And all three of them go. And
generally, does Robin generally have like a sister or a brother or like?
No.
He's usually an only child.
He's usually an only child. Again, the Bachelors added that because they saw in their research that an acrobatic family isn't usually just three.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they wanted to spruce it up and add another element.
But Batman canon is generally just him and his parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And Dick Grayson, meanwhile, throws the bomb. He's all excited because he's like, oh my God, my whole family's going to be heroes. And then he stops and he sees that everyone he loved is on the ground dead. And he hears a scream and realizes that it's his. And as it's described in the book. And Bruce hears a scream that he thinks is his own until he realizes it's not. And it's the same type of scream that he used to scream. when his own parents were killed. So already we feel that connection on it.
There's definitely like, I didn't know how dark Peter David liked to write. Actually, like I know Batman gets this dark in some iterations, but yeah, it's all good stuff. It's fucking like, yeah, it's written well.
Yeah, and David adds more to the gun thing, where he says, yet there he had been, holding the machine pistol in his hand, finger curled around the trigger, a quick squeeze, and Two-Face would have been dead, and perhaps the Graysons would be alive.
Yeah.
So it's because of that guilt that
his no-kill rule.
Yeah, and his no-kill rule that decides to bring Dick Grayson under the fold.
Right.
So he does do that. We get the same stuff where Dick has to be convinced to stay at the manor.
Right.
Alfred talks to him about the whole Robin on his helmet thing. Bruce sees the bat signal and goes to see Chase. And a cool moment for the Burton fans is he gets out of the Batmobile and says, "Shields." And the
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I forgot they didn't do that in Forever, huh?
No,
that
because
was so cool.
It's a different Batmobile.
Yeah, it already has.
Did you want to talk about the Batmobile for a second?
Since we're already there,
yeah.
I guess, yeah. It's not as good.
Very eloquent.
Let me just put it out. I wanted to make it, straight to the point for the listener. This is one of those things. I know we talk about our impressions when we were a kid a bunch on this podcast, but yes, this is a movie we saw when we were kids, and I do remember thinking, even at that time, not my Batmobile. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like Burton's was my shit, and then when we get to this one, which I see where they were headed, but it's just not quite memorable enough. The design's not as good, basically.
That, and I just don't get why there's neon lights on it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no stealth element to it. I mean, I get sure, we've had a tank Batmobile. We have, it's not kind of completely inconspicuous, but why would you have lights on them?
I mean, maybe you can chalk it up to him thinking that it's an Adam West thing mixed with a Burton thing. Like the neon lights make it more comic booky,
but
quote unquote. But
the Adam West one didn't have any neon lights at all.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, it's their way of sprucing it up.
I guess so.
And I don't really get it either. It sucked.
Yeah. I don't know if it sucked, but I mean, it's, as you said, it's not the Batmobile. It's not my Batmobile. Yeah. It's not the Batmobile I would go with. I do appreciate the single fin in the back type of thing, because they did say they wanted to replicate that image from the original.
But it does split
Batmobile.
though too at times, right?
I don't know if that was just a production mistake. As we saw when Robin's driving, there's one shot where it seems to be split, and then the next shot it's back to one again, and it's just confusing, and I don't know what happened there.
Supposedly that's really 45-year-old Chris O'Donnell driving it too.
Really?
That's what it said on IMDb trivia.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. He didn't really have to do much.
Yeah, but he said he's still. I think it said on there that he did getting a minor fender bender on set with it. Yeah.
I guess that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
So after the seduction scene with Chase is still the same, and afterwards there's a different action sequence with Two-Face, because remember there's one where he pretends to be an old lady and takes off the robe and tries to shoot the missile launcher.
Completely added later, right? Like you said before.
Yeah. So David does his own version of this, where Two-Face is waiting in the car, and apparently he's been spying, and he knows that Batman goes to the GCPD whenever the bat signal is up, and so here's my next opportunity to kill him. And Batman sees the cars coming after him, and he thinks, all right, it started on the rooftops, because he's thinking about that rooftop conversation he had with Harvey Dent around the time Batman Returns. And he's like, all right, I'll start on the rooftops. Maybe it'll end on the rooftops. And so the Batmobile starts driving on the rooftops.
This is crazy, dude.
And the thugs start chasing him, and that's when eventually Batman uses the grappling hook to go up the side of the building.
Okay.
So kind of a cooler version of what happened, but there's no Two-Face pretending to be an old woman with a grocery cart. There's no missile launching that gets rid of the other thug car. There's none of that shit. The Batmobile does still go up the side of the building though, but that's about it.
They wanted that thing to scale buildings since fucking 93 or some shit.
83, remember?
83.
Well,
they wanted to do it in in Burton one.
They want to do it in the Mankiewicz one. Remember, he's jumping on the rooftop.
That's right. They wanted that forever.
Nolan finally made that happen.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah. So let's see. Next scenes are pretty much the same, where Riddler shows up in Two-Face's hideout. They agree to team up. They do this whole crime spree. Batman shows up too late, or he gets tricked into going to a hair salon instead of the actual crime. In the meantime, Bruce finds that Dick Grayson is pummeling a straw-filled action dummy, as it says here, that's sort of drawn to have Two-Face on it. And
nice.
This is actually based on a scene that they shot that wasn't in the
like
script.
that. Yeah. Okay, really?
Yeah, where Bruce goes up to him and he says, "Hey, I just started the Black Knight. She sounds great. Why don't you grab the Harley and we'll take a ride?" So we actually have a payoff to the motorcycle scene. Because remember, he entices him.
Cool.
Yeah, he entices him with the whole like fix the motorcycle.
Yeah,
you can keep one.
Yeah.
So this shows that he did do it. And Dick turns him down and says, "Look, man, I appreciate the gig, but let's leave it at that. We're not going to be buddies, okay? You don't even know me." And Bruce says, "I know the pain that's with you every day, the shame, feeling somehow you should have saved him. I don't know you, but I'm like you. Have you thought about your future? The Wayne Foundation has an excellent scholarship fund. Once the bikes are finished," and Dick grabs basically the image of Two-Face and says, "He's my future." And Bruce says, "Don't let your love, your passion for your family twist into hatred of Two-Face. It's too easy." Dick says, "Look, no offense, man, but I don't think you've got a lot to teach me." And Bruce kicks the dummy's head off. And he says, "Don't be so sure." So that's a cool scene.
God damn, this is really good, man.
Yeah. Now that was actually shot, so that's not completely Peter David, but that's the only other, outside of seeing the deleted scene on the Blu-ray or DVD, that's the only other way that you can experience that scene. Peter David does add a scene of Bruce consulting with a lawyer about whether or not to sue Edward Nygma, since Edward Nygma came up with this box device around the time that he was working for Wayne. So just like, okay, is this copyright infringement? What is it? And Bruce decides to lay low and pretend that like, oh, he doesn't really care because he wants to know what Nygma's up to.
So far, I mean, up until this point, you haven't said much about Nygma other than his origin story. So does it seem like Peter David is much more interested in Two-Face than he is in Riddler, unlike the movie?
I think he's more interested in Batman.
Well, yeah, okay, for sure. But villain-wise?
I mean, villain-wise, I think he definitely changes more about Two-Face. And that makes more sense because Riddler is more developed in general in the movie than Two-Face ever was. So Two-Face requires more. I think Riddler... Even then, you didn't necessarily need to add the whole, been obsessed with you since school thing. It was kind of already clear that he idolized him. Bruce is a public figure. You can understand where that comes from. David just sort of wanted to explain where that came from. Two-Face wanted to kill Batman, even though Batman wasn't the one who threw the acid in his face. That's something that I could totally get why David was like, no. Let's find a different angle on this.
Okay.
So a lot of the Nygma stuff that he adds in here is stuff that was already in the script.
Okay.
Let's see. So Bruce goes to visit Chase Meridian. Same thing where he's with Chase, and Dick goes to break into the Bat Cave and steals the Batmobile. Dick's alleyway fight is a little different. It's described from the gang's point of view, where the Batmobile shows up, and then a cape figure shows up, but it seems to be just a dude who's draping the cape around his mouth and coming towards him, so it's kind of comical.
Okay.
Dick loses the battle with the thugs, and Batman actually quickly rescues him and uses knockout gas to take everyone out before shoving him into the Batmobile. And Dick wakes up in the Batmobile, and that's when he starts beating up Batman, being like, "It should have been you. It's your fault. If you had told Two-Face who you were at the circus, my parents would still be alive." And he beats He's distracting Batman to the point where Batman actually crashes the Batmobile into a fire hydrant.
Okay.
So it's a different take on that. I'm not necessarily sure if that's a better or worse version of it, but it's a different visual. They go to the Nygma party, and it's actually David actually explains why Chase Meridian dances with Edward Nygma, because that's a weird moment where Edward Nygma's like, "Shall we dance?" and she just dances with him. In the book, it says that Chase is about to say no, but looks at Bruce, who gives her a nod because he wants Chase just thinks that he wants her to sort of psychoanalyze him, but really he wants Nygma distracted so he can check out the box thing.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew. I just wanted to tell you about our friend Israel's retro gaming shop, RetroCo. If you go to retro-ko.com, you'll be able to see all of his retro gaming goodies. If you wanted to get that Sega Saturn hidden gem from back in the day, or if you wanted to get the Famicom disk system that you never got as a kid, or any other type of retro game that you were into, or import game, please go to retroco.com. That's retro-ko.com. And if you use the SuperHouse code Johnson's Ballsack, you'll be able to get a little bit of a discount at checkout. So please, once again, if you could just go to retroco.com. You can also go to facebook.com/retroco with no hyphen. That's RETROKO. You'll be able to find him on Facebook as well. If you were looking for that PlayStation import game that you never got, if you were looking for that Mega Drive game that you never got, or any other kind of retro game, any import game, it could even be European, Israel also curates bundles at RetroCo, and he'll curate that bundle just for you. So please, go check him out. If you put in the code Johnson's Ballsack at checkout, you'll receive a SuperHouse discount.
It's just a really good cover, man.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
The same thing happens. Two-Face attacks the gala, and then Batman shows up, and then Batman chases after Two-Face, and Two-Face tries to kill him and says, "Why don't you just die?" And he blows up the thing, and Batman starts getting buried in rubble. There's a different take on it in terms of what goes through Bruce's head. So this is the miracle of the prose medium, because you can't really do this in the script. It says, buried alive. The screeching filled his ears, and the blackness filled his soul. From down below him, although he couldn't see them, because he couldn't see anything, he sensed his parents' hands reaching up for him, desiccated, skeletal, clawing at his feet, pulling him down with them into the grave that he had once stood in front of and sworn that he would dedicate his life to. To what? To fighting crime? He could do that through the Wayne Foundation. To vengeance? Why did killing grate against his soul, then? Why not an eye for an eye? His eyes filled with sand. Tooth for tooth. His mouth spitting out dirt. To bring them back? Nothing could. To make them rest easier? They were dead. To join them? Yes, of course. That was it. It wasn't about anything so noble as doing right and seeking justice. This whole thing was just a massive death wish. Suicide on a spectacular scale. He'd worked for it. He deserved it. And now all he had to do was lean back and enjoy it. And of course, Dick Grayson has to screw it up and save his life.
Wow.
That's Peter David's description of Batman's near-death experience, and it's quite a different take on things.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
We have an extra moment. This is all Peter David, where Gordon and Bullock is in this.
Oh, shit.
Are interrogating one of the captured Two-Face thugs, and they're just like, "We need information on Riddler," and the guy's like, "All right, but like they told me I can't talk. Like if Two-Face and Riddler know that I said anything, they said I'm toast, I'm cooked," and it's like, we'll protect you and everything. And he's like, "All right," and he's about to talk until he starts screaming, and his head snaps back and forth, and until suddenly he just goes catatonic. And it says, quote, "And miles away, the Riddler removed the helmet that had connected his mind to the subcutaneous implant that Taylor, that all their henchmen, in fact, carried with them, unbeknownst to them. The one that had given Nigma full access to Taylor's entire thought process, not to mention the ability to blow out his neural pathways at whim." He sighed. "It's so difficult to find good help these days."
Okay.
So
I can see Jim Carrey delivering that line.
Right.
That's good.
So that's old Peter David, that sort of Suicide Squad type element of I can blow up your head.
Oh, right.
Sort of
right.
thing.
That's right.
So Batman has the same scene with Chase Meridian where he shows up and she's like, "I have you," and everything, and now like I realize I'm in love with everything else. And he's like, "I understand," and he goes off. And then David changes the entire game of Dr. Chase Meridian.
Okay, here we go.
He leaves.
Batman fucks the shit out of him.
No, he doesn't. Batman leaves. And she says, she picks up a tape recorder and starts talking about the case of Batman that she's been studying. And she says, "I figured it out. I saw Bruce wade into Two-Face's thugs in the circus. I heard his voice, saw his eyes, his chin, studied his body language. I don't know what I want. I've gone through my life so obsessed with trying to figure out what makes other people's minds work. I don't feel in touch with mine anymore. And whenever I'd spend time with Bruce, I'd see something there. So much inner strength, and at the same time, someone who needs so much himself. And when I started to figure out, the first thing I thought, God help me, the first thing I thought was what an incredible opportunity this was, to study him, to see behind the mask. He wasn't a person or a human being. He was just this thing of a background and facts and figures. And then the other day when he was here, and I was playing with my suspicions, teasing and pushing at his mind, and I looked in his eyes again, and then I didn't see him. I saw myself and everything mean-spirited and self-centered, and I'd been so horrible to him. He needed me." So it's basically Chase Meridian has figured out since day one that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Okay.
And everything she's done has been an attempt to study him, which explains the seduction scene on the rooftop is her testing him, which explains her, like, all this stuff finally actually has a different context in the Peter David version.
This is, I know I keep saying it. This is like genius level shit, man. This is really good.
Yes.
The fact that, one thing to write something from the ground up, but to go back and cover up and make plot holes make sense like this.
Right.
Or not plot holes necessarily, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Things not necessarily written in the best way.
Right.
There's such a talent to that, I think.
Yeah. So not only that happens, but across the way, Batman is watching Chase, and he goes into the Batmobile, and Alfred says, "How did it go, sir?" And he says, "Exactly as I thought it would. She knows. She figured it out." And now he smiles because he knows that he can tell her.
Okay.
So Batman has Batman the shit out of the situation by listening in and has already figured out that she would know and all that. So that
That's
also
cool.
redeems Batman.
That's cool.
Too. So much better than just her showing up in lingerie on the rooftop. Even though that does happen, but at least there's an explanation for it that
man?
ties into, like, maybe she's too obsessed into her work, which makes her a nice match for Batman, who's already obsessed with his work.
Right.
Let's see. Same stuff happens where Riddler demonstrates to Two-Face that he knows that Bruce is Batman. Then we go to Wayne Manor. It's a little clearer why Bruce wants to quit being Batman. He tells Dick, "You were right. As long as there's a Batman, you'll be behind him. But without Batman, you'll never track Two-Face down. Never get close to him. So from this day on, Batman is no more."
Okay.
So, again, adding more explanation through it. Same stuff happens that I described in the last episode. And if you guys haven't heard that episode, then stop this immediately and listen to the previous episode, because there was a lot of
My mind
good
was
stuff.
blown.
Yes. On why this movie was called Batman Forever in the first place, what was the biggest stuff that was cut.
Okay, dude, I gotta tell you, man.
Yeah.
After that episode, I tried so hard to get the Red Book edition.
Yeah.
Through my various ways, and could not find it. And I'm still trying to find that version.
Mm.
I feel like I could damn near make it with ripping the DVD, but I don't know. I just want to see what's been made and what's been kind of passed around online. And I
Absolutely.
have gotten so, for some reason, like for a week after we did that episode, I really did a lot of deep dives myself.
Yeah.
Just researching what the Red Book is all about, the Red Book edition and all that, and just like finding the Rick Baker auction.
Oh, yes.
With that makeup, the all red makeup for Two-Face. Do yourself a favor and go to the Rick Baker auction page to see what could have been with the Two-Face makeups, everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going, Ben.
Yeah. So let's see. Same stuff happens with the deleted cave scene with the giant bat. Again, listen to that episode if you haven't heard it. And the sonar suit is said to have nearly killed Batman last time.
Okay.
So that makes it more of a risk for him to go out in that. But he does it anyway, and they go and attack Claw Island. Riddler's appearance in the final confrontation is very different. But before we get to that, I skipped the payoff of the sonar suit. The reason why the sonar suit nearly killed him is because of the boot thrusters. If you remember in the movie, he sort of uses the thrusters in his boots to get past the grating that comes down on him, sort of like an Iron Man type thing. So David is saying that that's the reason why that was like a last-minute suit and could have killed him type of thing.
Okay.
So that makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so back to Riddler. Riddler's final appearance is a little different. He's describing as having a question mark shaved in the back of his head. Now, there's been a rumor has been going around that people are claiming that Robin Williams tried to shave a question mark into his head, into his skull or something like that to be the Riddler, but nobody's seemed to be able to find the photo or said that that's the version that Tim Burton would have picked. I don't know where that comes from. I just know the only thing related to Batman Forever with Riddler having a shaved question mark in his head is in the novelization.
This is a story that was passed around even at that time. Seems like.
Yeah, or at least in the internet, but I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
Riddler's also described as being in a big, muscular, form-fitting suit, and he makes a joke about being "quote-unquote" Arnold Schwarzenegger.
What?
I don't know what Peter David was going with this one.
Peter David, I think, can see into the future.
But it is kind of fun. Yeah, he's already got the Poison Ivy thing, and now he's got the Arnold Schwarzenegger reference.
Yeah.
And then the suit splits open and turns out to just be a suit. He's wearing the regular Riddler suit, but he's saying like, this switching of suits is like you, Bruce. I know who I really am. Let's help you decide once and for all who you really are. So that's kind of David's explanation for why there's that weird Arnold Schwarzenegger suit in here. Batman in the movie says, I see without seeing. In the book, for whatever reason, he says, I see without feeling. I don't know if that's a weird typo or what, but I thought it was an interesting change.
See without feeling.
I don't know if that really makes any sense, but whatever. Riddler tries to launch both Chase and Robin to kill them both. And instead, in this version, Chase is unconscious, which she might as well have been because Nicole Kidman had 0 lines in the third act of that.
Pretty much, right?
And Robin actually uses his strength and acrobatic and flexibility to not get launched out of the tube in the first place.
Okay.
So he actually stays inside the tube, and Batman just rescues Batman just rescues Chase, and Robin just catches up to them. And then Two-Face shows up with the halogen light on his head to blind Batman's sonar lenses and everything.
Okay.
Same scene happens. Batman tosses a batarang, not a bunch of coins, but a batarang at Two-Face.
Okay.
And it says Batman's intention was to knock the coin away and down, hoping that without it, Harvey would be stymied, unable to decide. Instead, he lunged for it. He snatched it out of midair, still clutching his gun, and then he fell. He fell 2 yards. Two-Face slammed against one of the lower girders. This is all Peter David here.
Okay.
Because Two-Face does not fall to his death from the coins.
Yeah,
It says, he slams against it. It was bone-jarring, but his crazed strength and determination were enough to enable him to cling both to the coin and the gun. He twisted himself around, bracing his feet, clinging tenaciously, like a bat. Did you think it would be that easy? Did you? He howled. After everything that was between us, Batman, after the promises you made, you, the hero, the upholder of justice, and look what you did to us. Look! And from above, Robin shouted down, and look what you did to us. Two-Face peered up at him. What? Dick says, you go around acting like the coin is making all the decisions, but it's all bull. It's not the coin, it's you. You called me gutless? God, you're so goddamn gutless, I feel sorry for you. With a snarl, Two-Face brought his gun up and aimed at Robin. Robin pressed on relentlessly, his arms and legs starting to tire. You don't have the guts to admit Batman was human and couldn't do everything. He's a better man than you'll ever be, and you're passing judgment on him? How about you, hotshot? What's that coin say about you, huh? You're so busy passing judgment on everyone and everything except the guy who's really on trial here. I bet you don't have the nerve to try challenging the hand of fate yourself for once. See if it pats you on the back or slaps you down. Go on. Do it. Forget about your coin. Decide for yourself about yourself, you pathetic monster. Do it! Two-Face stared up at him for an eternity as the water crashed below. Then he flipped the coin. It spun, hanging there in the night, and then descended. Two-Face plucked it out of the air, looked at it. He shook his head without looking at Robin. He said, It seems we were right the first time. You are a man after our own heart, and you managed to rip it out. He chuckled softly. You owe us, kid. And he released his hold on the girder. He made no sound as he descended, not at all. There was dead silence. I didn't want to do that, said Robin slowly. I killed him. No, says Batman. You just showed Two-Face's real face. The rest was his decision. Maybe his first genuine decision in years, Robin. And that's
amazing.
The Peter David version of the death of Two-Face. That is the best version of how this thing ends.
That's incredible. It's incredible. So it's Robin's arc at that point.
Yeah, it's the fulfillment of Robin's arc. Robin gets his revenge of actually killing him.
Yeah.
And he does bring about a cool way to bring out Two-Face's character, just like, why don't you make a decision about yourself? Type of thing.
True, yeah, it's
and
good.
And Two-Face being
Very
so
good.
miserable and wrapped in vengeance and realizing he's never going to get it, and everything. So it's a beautiful way to end his arc.
It sucks that we didn't get this movie, man. Can you imagine if we got this movie?
I know.
Our little fucking 9-year-old brains would have fucking exploded, man. We would have been able to take it.
I had this book when I was young, and I didn't really like. I remember reading the bit at the beginning of this. I'm like, this isn't like the movie at all. What the hell is this? And then as I got older, I started to appreciate like, character moments and everything.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, you wanted it to be just like the movie, pretty much.
Yeah, kind of. But then I realized how much better this was. And then it shocked me when I was a little older, and I read through the whole thing, and then I got to this point where I'm just like, this isn't like the movie at all, but holy shit, so much better.
It's a lot better, it seems like.
Yeah. A few other changes. It's explained that the henchwomen, Sugar and Spice, Spice pulls out a portable phone to call a guy off a yacht, and that's how they get off. There's a little...
Good. I'm glad he covered that.
Yeah, there's a little scene of Batman... doing the whole like I'm Batman not because I have to be, but because I choose to be. And he says, however, it would have been nearly impossible to accomplish rescuing both of them. Fortunately, I had help. And he looks at Robin.
Yes, nice.
So it kind of solidifies that. And then we have the same ending where they're so deluded he thinks he's Batman, and then Chase talking to Bruce outside before going in the car and having the final lines, once again, like in the script, being like, does it ever end, Alfred? And he says, no, miss, not in this lifetime. And then that was it. So that is all the major moments of the Peter David Batman Forever novelization. I did not include a lot of the little, moments or the little beautiful prose that he adds to it. But
it's incredible, man. Incredible.
Yeah. So it's
very surprising that this exists.
I know.
It's been talked about on a lot of Batman forums, it seems like. I've been to a couple myself.
Yep.
Just because it's such an interesting part of the Batman history, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we usually do a deep dive into the previous scripts and I go into who would have been cast and everything. We did not have a chance to do that last time, so we thought we might as well do that now.
Okay, let's do it. Good.
So,
good stuff.
For Batman, obviously Michael Keaton was the first choice because he had played it beforehand, and there's a bit of a dispute of his reasons why he said no. Mm-hmm. Some say it's a money dispute. He claims that he just didn't like the direction that they were going to go in, and he turned down however much money they were offering. I don't know how much of that is just because of the movie's reputation, and he's just capitalizing on that to make himself look good or anything, but it's a little mixed. But obviously, he did not return for this one. So there are a lot of rumors on who the next Dark Knight would be. I found an old LA Times article saying that Kurt Russell was rumored to be it.
And Alec Baldwin. They wanted him forever.
Alec Baldwin was not mentioned in the LA Times. However,
I'm messing with you.
His brother Billy
Baldwin
said this. He says, I was one of, because Billy Baldwin ended up playing Batman in terms of the voice in the Justice League Crisis on Two Earths movie.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And when they interviewed him, he said, quote, I was one of Joel Schumacher's top choices when Val Kilmer wound up playing Batman. Tim Burton and Michael Keaton had left, so Joel had the luxury of replacing Michael Keaton, and he told me that his four choices, which was eclectic, diverse array, were, and this is going to be hilarious, Daniel Day-Lewis, Ralph Fiennes, Val Kilmer, and me.
Okay.
I didn't even know it at the time. He told me when I had a meeting with him later. So apparently those were Joel Schumacher's top four choices. Daniel Day-Lewis, Ralph Fiennes, Val Kilmer, then Billy Baldwin.
It's just like after seeing, There Will Be Blood, it seems like Daniel Day-Lewis would be such an excellent villain.
Right.
You know, like, he's got the darkness that I think Batman needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's method as fuck, so I guess he could pull it off. He seems kind of small, but like, as a villain, my God, what villain could he play, do you think? I don't put you on the spot here.
He could play any of them, honestly.
He could play
Joker,
Riddler.
Two-Face.
Riddler comes to mind for me, like a very dark Riddler.
A dark Riddler, he could do that. Didn't Joey fan casted him as Ra's al Ghul? On our podcast.
Yeah. I can see it. But the thing is, like, Ra's al Ghul is a little bit more Middle Eastern, though.
Yeah.
I know what's his name is not exactly cast all that well, but Liam Neeson. I mean, he was good in the role.
Another tall Irish actor.
Yeah.
Has to play this role.
Is Daniel Day-Lewis tall?
I think he's 6'1". I don't know.
Is he? Oh, man. I thought he was shorter. All right. Anyway.
I don't know. Apparently, Ethan Hawke was also asked. He says...
Not surprised.
He said, quote, this was after Tim Burton's Batman films, before the bad period. I just didn't want to go to the New York Knicks game and have everybody go, wow, you were a great Batman. That wasn't my fucking goal in life. Now I wish I'd done it because I could have used it to do other things.
That's what Hawke said?
Yeah. Well, his ex-wife ended up becoming Poison Ivy, so...
That's true. That's true. Whatever.
Since we're on the subject of Batman, I did want to revisit our discussion about Kilmer versus Keaton, in a way.
Okay.
And how we evaluate Batman, because I kind of realized that there's a lot of factors that come about, especially with... When you judge a lot of the actors, you have to judge it based off of... a lot of it has to come down to the actual performance itself, because that's the only thing that they're responsible for, right? But in some ways, you also have to evaluate based off of how well they fit the character, as well as this has to be a factor, but the characterization of the movie that surrounds them has to be a factor. So I feel that Kilmer had a better characterization as Batman than was in the Burton. That might be a hot take. That might be a bold statement, as we used to have in there.
Yeah,
but I do feel that the characterization that the Bachelors gave him was a lot better than what we got out of the Keaton version. However, I personally, after revisiting sort of scenes, the thing, I feel like Keaton has the better performance, even though Kilmer has the better characterization. So that's how I would rank it.
Good breaking it down, man.
Yeah. So part of it is just the general intensity of Keaton's Batman, that just from his looks, I don't know, the eyes, something about it. Like there's something that Kilmer doesn't have.
I think
even though
I
some
can
of that
agree
is
with
from
that.
Yeah,
I agree with that for
Yeah.
sure. That's a very good. Yeah.
Even though
we
on
broke
paper,
it down very well there.
Yeah, because like on
Yeah.
paper, Kilmer should rank higher technically.
Yeah.
Because of the characterization, but I mean, Kilmer's not necessarily responsible for characterization. He's only responsible for the actual performance he gives. So I can't really bring myself to rank Keaton.
There's a certain stiffness maybe to Kilmer too.
A little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And I mean, again, some of it's the script, not all of it's his fault. To be honest, I know that it was written for Keaton, but I really can't see Keaton doing the same type of Batman that the script required.
Oh no,
You can't really.
No.
I can't see Keaton say the bat signal's not a beeper. Nicole Kidman.
I mean, Keaton is like, he became like dark as fuck too. He gets darker the older he gets, you know. Like to see him in Far From Home, man, or Homecoming.
Homecoming,
rather,
yeah.
He's so
kill you.
He's so fucking dark, bro.
Yeah.
And that's like a light ass Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I agree with you. I think the only thing is, and I know this is like, Keaton's my first Batman, always and forever, but I feel like Kilmer's just better looking.
Yeah,
He's a little bit more a handsome Bruce Wayne.
Back in the 90s, yes. Maybe not.
Oh, not as much now, but we're
No
judging
offense,
at the
Kilmer,
time.
but yeah.
You had a kind of a tough run of it for a while, it seems
Yes.
like. That's a whole other story, everybody.
Yes,
but you know, at the time when these movies came out, I feel like Kilmer
He's
was
a more believable millionaire
Playboy
playboy
type,
that
yeah.
all the girls are falling. Like the way that he's treated in the movie, where everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's Bruce Wayne. Who's he taking to the charity circus and everything?" Like it's tough to see the Keaton version of that being so popular.
and like, what's his name? Like, there's a certain, like, how do I say it? Like swarthiness. You know what I'm saying? To Bruce Wayne. That I feel like Kilmer's so waspy.
Again, like I think Kilmer had the way better characterization. In fact, I think I would say in terms of the public persona of Bruce Wayne, I like the one in Batman Forever probably the best, because you know Keaton's was more of a like shut in. Nobody really knew who the fuck he was.
Yeah.
We'll see Clooney later in the next episode to judge on that. Bales was more of an asshole. You know, he's like, hey, I'm buying this hotel and setting new rules in the pool area and like showing up drunk to things and drunkenly burning down.
Let me ask you a question about that. Like, I have read many a Batman comic before.
Yeah.
But not as much as you, I think. And that's kind of like Nolan's contribution to Bruce Wayne being kind of a dick.
I mean, he's kind of expanding the scene in year one where Gordon shows up to interview Bruce to see if he's Batman, and Bruce is like, "Hi, I have this woman who doesn't speak any English, and I don't remember her name. What's your name again?" And he's already drunk and everything. So I think Nolan latched onto that and basically made that his Bruce Wayne. And I guess part of me kind of expected that Bruce Wayne would kind of have a redemption arc and be seen as more of a philanthropist type that you saw Kilmer's Bruce Wayne being, and instead he just ended up supposedly getting killed during the Bane raid in the public eye. So that's and then Affleck's version of Bruce Wayne felt a little bit like Keaton in terms of like he's kind of a recluse. He does show up sometimes, but like Barry Allen didn't really know who he was when he showed up in Justice League. So I'm like, I don't know.
Well, like, and the end scene of Dark Knight Rises, whenever they're out in the open, and it's after Bruce Wayne supposedly died.
Yeah.
And he shows up in that cafe or whatever.
With no disguise whatsoever.
No disguise whatsoever. I'm thinking like, well, like people that are against those scenes, they say, well, everybody knows who Elon Musk looks like. Why wouldn't they know who Bruce Wayne looks like? But I'm like, dude, I'm not sure. I know the paparazzi would be there, but the thing is, like, is Bruce Wayne always written like that type, like to be a Richard Branson, like Elon Musk, a Zuckerberg type, where everybody knows his face?
It depends.
That kind of a rich guy?
He's seen that way in the Nolan movies, though.
Is that's pretty okay?
That's
all
pretty
right.
much established.
Yeah,
Falcone
yeah.
straight up says you have to travel 1,000 miles to meet anyone who doesn't know your name or your face. Or anything
Okay,
like
yeah, I
that.
forgot
So,
about that line. Yes.
it's
Okay,
still
yeah,
relevant,
he shot himself in the foot on that one. I guess.
Right. I could maybe see the Keaton version of that getting away with that.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
Nobody knew who he was in the first place anyway.
I just thought it was such a great scene. It was just like, just let it go, dude. The emotion's so good.
Well, let's
Michael Uslan cried when he saw that movie,
Yes, he
bro.
did. Stay tuned for our Dark Knight Rises deep dive episode coming many months from now, however many months it is
Probably,
to get there.
May next year or some shit?
Yeah, maybe sooner than that. We'll see.
Before The Batman comes out,
Yes,
at least.
definitely.
This is all one big run-up to The Batman in 2021.
Right.
2021, man. Next June, we still got another year.
We got plenty of Batman movies.
Yeah, that's true.
The animated ones we haven't even touched yet.
And I want to go with Superman as well.
Yeah, we'll dive into the Supermans.
Yeah.
That's gonna. If anything, we're gonna have more episodes on the unmade Superman scripts than actual Superman
I
movies.
find that shit fucking fascinating, man. I listen to
I
anyway.
got a lot of reading to go to.
All right.
For Chase Meridian, the names that LA Times had, again, these were rumors that the LA Times was reporting, since LA Times is a little bit more reputable than, like, fanmovies.com or whatever. I'm going to say that maybe there was some actual talk of it. The names that were considered were Rene Russo,
Makes sense. Yeah.
Jan Triplehorn, and Linda Hamilton.
Oh wow. Okay.
I personally think Nicole Kidman was probably perfect for that version. That
For
they were
this
going with.
particular role,
Yeah.
it was the right choice. Yes.
Let's see. Obviously, as I said in the last podcast, Tommy Lee Jones was Joel Schumacher's first, last, and only choice for Two-Face.
So weird, man.
Which is a weird
I
choice.
still feel like it's not the best choice.
Okay, not to put you on the spot, but who would you replace in there? Let's say
man.
if you couldn't do Billy D, let's say like Billy D come back and Billy D's like, this is the script I got to work with. I got to cackle all the time. No way. And then he's gone.
Nobody comes to mind right now, but just like somebody is like from like gangster films or something like.
I have a out of the box choice for this.
Okay.
For 1995.
Yeah.
To stay true to the version of Two-Face that they were going to bring to life, while also acknowledging the fact that Billy D. Williams was Harvey Dent. I don't want to change the ethnicity.
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson.
It would be good. Yeah, I could see that.
As the crazy Two-Face.
Yeah.
Think of some of the lines that he says in this.
Yeah. It's like a Marcellus Washington or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
as basically Marcellus Washington or Marcellus Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah.
Wallace.
Marcellus Wallace.
Apologies.
As Two-Face
Yeah.
in this. I can kind of
It's
see.
it's possible. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
also Samuel Jackson is like maybe 2 years younger than Tommy Lee anyway, so the age is, even though he doesn't look like it
That's
at
true.
all because black don't crack, but he's around the same age.
oh man. Yeah, I could totally see that, man. I mean, I'm thinking my first thought was somebody like a Bobby Cannavale type of that time. Like God, I don't know who. Like somebody from Goodfellas.
Ray
or something.
Liotta,
Ray Liotta would be a pretty good
maybe.
Two-Face, I think.
Yeah.
Have to be a little bit more serious though than what we got.
I
in
see him
Forever.
as more serious.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
yeah,
Like the characterization that's in the script. If I were to stay true to it, that's where Samuel Jackson would come from. My second choice would potentially be Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man mode.
If the stuntman could take his insane
Yeah,
kicks
well, that's
to the
the
face
other thing.
without
Yeah.
any holding back.
Luckily, Two-Face doesn't have a lot of hand-to-hand combat in the movie.
That's true.
So that would have been interesting. Let's see. Robin Williams was the number one choice for Riddler, and then, of course, they moved on to Jim Carrey. The name that had the most...
I looked into that. There was
Yeah.
some sort of like he felt burned about something before, like he wasn't their first choice before, and then he became, or some sort of shit.
Well, it's
some
because
sort of trivia
they
like
used
that.
him to trick
Oh,
Nicholson.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And he was burned on that.
Yeah, and he's like, you're not going to do the same to me. So, ironically, he just didn't end up in it.
Unbelievable, dude.
Yeah. But, I mean, I also think Carrey is perfect for this version of it.
Yeah, it's fucking perfect. And he had just come off of like, Ace Ventura 1 and 2, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. Like he was hot at this time.
Also, the tight bodysuit.
Yeah.
I don't really see. I mean, I can kind of see Robin Williams in it. It just feels a lot uglier than what was in the actual
They probably would have changed it a little bit. Probably he probably would have been wearing suspenders, dude. They probably would.
Maybe,
I bet
yeah.
you anything Schumacher would have gone for like a deranged, even more deranged Mork with question marks on his
Potentially.
fucking head.
Yeah.
I could totally see Schumacher doing that with Williams.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. The role that obviously was the most sought after was Robin.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of actors associated, some lesser known than others. So somebody named Renoli Santiago from Dangerous Minds, I think. Yeah, Dangerous Minds and Hackers was considered for it. On the DVD featurette, Schumacher said that he met with the following British actors: Ewan McGregor,
Oh, wow.
Jude Law, Alan Cumming, which comes from out of nowhere, because I don't think Alan Cumming was anywhere like close to the age that, like, if you think Chris O'Donnell was old, Alan Cumming was into his 30s during the time. And Toby Stevens, who played the villain in Die Another Day, and he's on Black Sails. Also considered was Leonardo DiCaprio.
I could see that, yeah.
He said, quote, "I never screen tested. I had a meeting with Joel Schumacher. It was just one meeting, and no, I didn't end up doing it. I don't think I wanted the role. Joel Schumacher is a very talented director, but I don't think I was ready for anything like that."
Diplomacy, everybody.
Yes.
Diplomacy. That's how you make it.
You know who was less diplomatic was the other guy I've got on this list.
Okay, here we go.
Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
Once I was kind of talked about for the Robin role in Batman Forever, someone dodged a bullet. So those are the original names considered for...
Are you saying Mark Wahlberg is worse with words than DiCaprio?
Who knew?
Wow.
Who knew?
We got a Transformer.
I think all of those choices were too old, at least at the time.
I don't know why they wanted 45-year-olds to be playing this role, man.
You know who was 16 or so at the time? Who I looked up and was
DiCaprio actually was probably 16.
He was like 22 or so.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You know who was 16 at the time? Who I think, even though like he would have been out of the running for future stuff, but I don't know. Like you had Tommy Lee Jones and Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer now all part of the MCU, so who knows?
True.
Jake Gyllenhaal was 16.
Would have been perfect.
And he's 16 in the script. So I'm like, oh man.
Shit.
Yeah. So he would have been.
Yeah, he would have been
age.
good. He would have been good,
and then everything would have made sense.
You sympathize with Gyllenhaal's performance, like I feel like
yeah.
Gyllenhaal is an actor that really pulls out the sympathy, more than a lot of other.
So I could I could see that working out. So that's kind of my, even though I didn't really do a formal fan cast like I usually do, because this version of the script was pretty close to what was in the movie. If I were to change two roles in the movie, it would be Jake Gyllenhaal as Robin and Samuel L. Jackson as Two-Face.
Okay.
Last thing, this is not really a casting thing, but I might as well throw in this trivia. One of the original designers for the Batman Forever Batmobile that was not used was Alien's famous designer, H.R. Giger, whatever the fuck you pronounce it. Giger. His version almost looked like a pair of scissors. It's really weird. I'll show it to you right now.
I'm sorry, I missed it. He made the Batarang?
He made a Batmobile.
The Batmobile.
He designed a Batmobile that, to be honest, dude, you probably would have found worse than the actual one in the movie.
I feel like you've shown me this already.
It looks like a pair of scissors. Look at this.
Oh, man. I mean, look, that's what do you expect when you ask Giger? You know?
I know.
But yeah, it's definitely not what you want.
Right. So
I don't know why people just can't make a fucking Batmobile. It's so easy to me.
I don't know why they didn't just use the one from the previous movie.
Just fucking rehash it, bro.
To rehash it. I mean, you're already using, as we covered in the previous script stuff, like there was a lot of mentions of the previous movies, so you could have kept it in continuity. It would have worked. But oh well.
Add different gadgets to it, maybe. That's what you could do. But
potentially, yeah.
But add a
what they did with the
sonar
Batmobile
function to the Batmobile or some shit.
Exactly.
Is that pretty much it, bro?
That is pretty much it on the novelization and deep dives into alternate versions of Batman Forever. We've seen the movie, we've covered the Bachelor script, we've covered the Goldsman script, we've covered the Peter David novelization. At this point, I don't really have anything else to cover unless we go into audiobooks and children's novelizations, and I doubt there's anything new there.
We'll skip that one, Batman Forever. We might cover a Batman audiobook at some point in SuperHouse's lifetime, but
probably, yeah.
But not for this, at least this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody, check us out on all the social media. You know where the fuck to find us. Just search for SuperHouse Podcast on whatever you're on. I am Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram, and Ben.
I am Ben Juan Ryder on Instagram.
And thank you, Shasta, as usual, for your Patreon patronage. Hopefully we'll add to this list at some point soon. But yeah, we're on Patreon. More than likely you know what that is. But anyway, that's patreon.com/SuperHousePodcast. Over there you can sign up and donate us $1. That's all that we got as far as tiers are concerned for Patreon at the moment, just the $1 tier. And that's basically it. Check us out on the next episode where, it's going to be the best one.
We wrap up this Batman Forever deep dive for anybody wondering why the hell we're spending so much time on this one.
Yeah. You'll see. Anyway, this is Andrew signing off.
Ben signing off.